Your idea about papal infallibility, it's really going to call it into question. So I think probably what Pope Francis would prefer to do is what he did with residential schools, to say this was an error, but not necessarily rescind it, because there isn't a way to.
Last year, during a visit to the Canadian Arctic, Pope Francis apologized to First Nations people for the evil of the country's Catholic residential schools. Now, those schools became notorious for abuse and even of Canadian Indigenous children as they were forced to assimilate to white Catholic culture. Church doctrine also allowed Portugal and Spain to take territories in Africa and the rest of the Americas.
1455 Papal Bull, Romanus Pontifex, it said that the King of Portugal was to go to the western coast of Africa and to invade, capture, vanquish, and subdue all Saracens, pagans, and other enemies.
On indigenous land in Arizona, President Joe Biden gave a forceful mea culpa for generations of government-sponsored family separation, cultural eradication, and shocking abuse of indigenous.
I formally apologize as President of the United States of America for what we did. I formally apologize. It's long overdue.
For 150 years, Native children taken from their families were sent to government and church-run schools, where they were beaten for speaking their languages or observing their traditions. At least 900 children died from disease, malnutrition, or abuse. Survivors reported widespread cruelty and sexual assaults on young children. The school's program caused
classrooms to display the Ten Commandments.
However, not everyone is on board with the idea. News 4's Tanner De Leon spoke with both sides about the possibility of this being.
The Ten Commandments are the basis of all laws in Louisiana, and given all the junk our children are exposed to in classrooms today, it's imperative that we put the Ten Commandments back in a prominent position.
The Texas Senate pushed through a pair of bills that would bring religion back into public school classrooms. One bill would allow time for students and staff to pray at school. The other would require the Ten Commandments be posted in every public school classroom.
The North Dakota State Senate this week considered Senate Bill 2308. It would allow schools to post the Ten Commandments. Several senators quickly pointed out that that had already been struck down.
H-Bill 240 could permit public schools across Ohio to employ chaplains to provide support services. The bill's primary sponsor, Republican Reggie Stolfus, says he was inspired by a similar bill that passed in Texas.
The bill, but bottom line, public and charter schools across the state of Texas will be able to have counselors or have chaplains work alongside counselors or work in place of counselors. And every single school board across the state must.
Governor Ron DeSantis in Kissimmee Thursday, where he signed a bill that would authorize school districts across the state to allow volunteer chaplains onto school campuses. If permitted by the district, chaplains would be allowed in public schools and charter schools. Districts would
sorrow and shame for what happened at residential schools.
He
also acknowledged the damage and indignity visited upon indigenous children by some members of the church.